Welcome back guys to another video, and today we are continuing with our YouTube Backend Clone, and on this video we'll be handling videos. We'll be uploading our video, updating the video, deleting video, and streaming the video, which is most important. So how the architecture would be like with regards to those videos is, from what I know, don't quote me on this, right? And before we even get started, please like, share, subscribe, comment down below with regards to this video, and leave that like, most importantly, and subscribe. And if you're really interested in learning more about back-end development, consider subscribing and turn on that notification bell. So with regards to this architecture, what we're going to be doing is we'll have somewhat like a folder here, because from what I know, don't quote me on this, YouTube handles their videos on file system, right, with no database. Don't quote me on this, I might be wrong, but then that's from my research. So this is what we're going to try and implement, right? So we'll have a folder here called the videos, right? So this is where we will store all our videos. However, the path will be stored within our model schema, so that we can know when a person clicks on a certain video, we know the video path from based on what we have saved it here. Hopefully that makes sense. So now within our model, let's create this model, right? So now we'll say import schema from mongoose and model, right? And then what then we need is we need to come in here, and then we say const the video schema is equals to new schema, and then within the schema we need to know the owner of the video or the channel, right? And then we'll say this is a schema dot types dot object id, and then ref is user, right? Because remember that we have this as a user model name, right? And the next thing we need within here is we need the name of the video, which will be type string, and this thing is required, right? So we'll say true, and then we say name, and say video name is required to create video or to upload video, right? So now that is that. And then what else do we need? We need the video path, right? So we'll say video path, and then we'll say type of string, and within here what then we do is we make it a requirement. We'll say true, and then we say video path is required to create or to upload video, right? And then what else do we need? The video path must be unique, true, because we need to differentiate these videos. And then say video path already exists, right? And then the next thing we need is, for this video we need to keep track of its likes, right? So its likes will be a type of number, and by default, and that is 0. And then we have the dislikes, and that is a type also of number, and required and default and mean, that is 0, right? And then what else do we have? We need to keep track of the views, but then the views will be a type of array, because we might have an array of objects, so that we can know from which area or location this person is viewing from, so on and so forth. And we'll get to that when we implement this part, which is video performance, views by count, views by location, so on and so forth, right? So but then for now that is not the focus, so default is that. And then we need finally, which is our comment, and that also will be a type of array, and by default that is an empty array. So our schema will be looking somewhat like this. Let's create the model. We'll say export const video model is equals to model, and then we'll say video, and then say video schema, right? So now that would be our video model schema. So now what then we want to do is we need to be able to upload this video, right? So now with us being able to upload this video, what then do we need to need? We need some few packages that we're going to be working with, right? We will need Malta and we'll need UUID in order for us to have a different unique identifier for this video, right? So we'll come in here and we'll say npmi Malta and UUID, right? So these are the two packages that we will need, and the rest we've already had, which is what is formidable, if we will need formidable, but then for Malta we don't really need formidable, right? So we can come in here, and Malta is a middleware that is rand, right? So we'll come in here, we create a folder here called middleware, right? And then within that, first things first, when a person creates a video, we need to authenticate to know who this person is, right? So let's first create an authenticate.middleware.js. So this is a conversion that I use, like I explained to you guys, that I'll be using this kind of conversion, right, with regards to naming my stuff and everything, right? So now what then I do here is we need to authenticate. So we'll use, since we have a JWT token, say from JSON web token, what then do we need? We need verify, and we'll need our config from .env. We'll say .env, and we need that config to access our cookie secret, right? And then we invoke that config function, right? So we'll say export const authenticate, which will take in a request, a response, and the next function, right? So now what then we do is we'll say const the token, we'll get it from a request dot headers, and it will be named x auth dash token, right? And then what then we do is we then say verify, and within this verify we throw in the token, and then we give it a cookie secret, which is a process.env a dot cookie underscore secret. Hopefully the spelling is correct. I can even verify that. I can just copy that, come back here, and then paste that thing, right? And then the next thing is this thing will take in a callback function, which is an error or the decoded, right? So we can look into what this thing is. So the first thing is handling the error, that if there is an error, it means that this token is expired or doesn't, or is an invalid token. So now say return a response.status of 400, or say 403 for redirect, if I'm mistaken. Let's just say keep it 400.json, and then we say sign up or log in to upload video, alright? And then if this if check is now passed, it means that we have the data that we need. So we can now attach this decoded data to our request body. So we can now say request.token is equals to the decoded, and then we call in the next function to push forward the middleware, right? So we can test this thing up first, so we can see how this middleware is working, right? So that I don't lose anyone. So I come here to my route, and then say video.route.js, right? And I say import from express, I need a router. And then now with that said, we say const router is equals to a router, and then we say a router dot post, and it will be /API/video, right? Which will take in a request and a response. And then with that said, what I only want to do now is we want to run that middleware, say import, and we want to import that middleware. We come in here, go up once, go to middlewares, authenticate that middleware, right? And then we run that. So how do we add a middleware is right in between here, we add that middleware, which is authenticate. Right, and then we add that comma. So if that if this next function is called, what then do I want to do is I can now just, for now, we can return a response.status of 200.json with a message saying authenticated for now, right? You can say authenticated, but then we'll update with this. Excuse me. So now let's expose this URL or this route. We say export default router, and then we come to our server, and we now say import video route from routes, and then video route, right? And then I can come in here and say server.use, and we say video route. So now this should be exposed. So I can come here to my postman, and then within there, my postman, I can now create a new request. Come here to create new request, and then first of all we want to log in, right? Because we need to get our token. So let's go to post. We change this to post. Why is my okay? There we go. So I can now come in and say http localhost, and we now say 5000 /API/sign in, right? So now let's remember what user we have here. So we only have one user as far as I'm concerned, and that is Junior. And I believe the password, remember, we changed it to 246, something like that. I don't remember. So we can come here, body, but then it should make sense, we should get it. And then we'll say the value that we need is account, right? And with that said, it should be only be one. Okay, there we go. And then the value, I can say, because it allows me to use email and password, let's say junior@gmail.com, and then the password, I think it's 24567 if I'm not mistaken. Password is, and then 234567. I believe that should be the password, right? So now let's send this request. Let's see if my server is running. My server is not running, so npm run dev, very important. Let's see, wait for the server to run, and then we send our request. So we have the server running right now. I can go to postman and then send this request, right? So now that should go successfully if my password is not wrong, right? So let's see if we got everything correct. If we didn't, we'll just create another account, as easy as that. Shouldn't be a hassle. So let's see. Okay, so I have something, cannot read, property includes of undefined. What is this thing saying to me? We come back here. Let's go to our account controller, not our account auth controller. Go to our sign in. We need account, right? And then let's make sure that is exactly that. I believe I wrote it. I believe I have no typos. Let's cancel that out. And then within my fields, we have that. Let's kill the server to clean up. Okay. And then let's come back again and rerun this. servers up. There we go. Let's run that. We should work right now. Let's see. Hopefully I don't get any errors right now. We shouldn't get any errors. Okay, it says invalid credentials. So I believe it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it means that I had some typo here. Interesting. So let's run this again. And then if this doesn't work, we create a new account without wasting time. Alright, so we get our token. There we go. So here's our token. Let's copy this thing. And this whole entire thing, we omit the quotation marks. Just be careful. There we go. So I can just Control C, and then within here I'll go to my headers. Right, we'll use the same tab, and then here I will say X auth dash and sugar dash token, and then I paste in that value. I don't know why my postman is very slow. And then make sure that we remove that other quotation mark that we don't need there. Right, and then here I change sign in to video. So I change that to API video. Right, so now first thing I don't want to add this header, so we should get an error saying that we should be authenticated or should sign in or log in. So if I were to send this request right now, let's send that, we should get a message telling us that we are to be authenticated or we are to sign up or log in. So now if I add this token and then I send this, I should get authenticated. Right, so now this is the first step with regards to uploading video. So now the next step is configuring Malta as a middleware enabled to access this video, because we need the following. Let's go to our model. What we need by default is the name and the video path. So the name will be coming from this user, and the video path is something that we will configure when we upload with Malta. Right, so now what then we do is we come in here, we go to our video model, not model, but then middleware. We create what we call a video.middleware.js. right, so now what then we do is here we'll import Malta. And what else do we need? We need to import UUID, so we import a v4, we'll say v4, and then we'll say as UUID v4. Right, and then what else do we need? That should be all that we need for now, and if we do need anything else, we'll definitely add. So now the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a storage. So say video storage, right? And this video storage, we configure it using Malta, whereby we say malta.disk storage. So now this thing will take in a destination, and the destination is what? This videos folder, right? So say videos, and then the next thing that it will take is the file name, right? Which is a function, and it will say request and the file and CB, which is a callback. Right, now within this file name we need to create an ID, which is from UUID. Right, and then the next thing that we need is we need to get the token, because I'll explain right now how we're gonna be getting this generating this file name, right? So but then remember, where I'm accessing this is coming from the other middleware, which is this, because here I've already attached the request the token based on the decoded, right? So now what then we do is we access that, and then now we craft our file name. So say const file name. So now the file name, how it would be is we'll say like that. It should be a $, like that, and then we'll say token dot underscore ID. And remember that when we sign in within our payload, we have this underscore ID, so we can access that, and that is the user's ID. So what we do is, first prefix is the user that owns the video dash, and then the unique ID of the video, right? And it's very important that this token that underscore ID, we make sure that it's a string, because by default it's a object, it's a mongoose schema types object ID, right? So we can make sure that we avoid silly errors, and then we add that as a toString, right? And then now what then we do is we now have our file name, right? So now we also need to attach this to the request body, because we will need this file name in order to save it to the video path, because this file name is the video path, right? So now we say request that file name is equals to file name, right? And then next, what we need to do, you're not yet done. So the next thing that we do is we need to call in that callback function, and this callback function error will be null, and the file name is that file name that we crafted ourselves. So now this is how the video storage would work in terms of saving this file name or the files, right? So now next thing that we need to do is we need to write the actual middleware for uploading. So now say const, and this is the one that will export. We say const video upload, right? And this video upload, we say Malta, and then now we give it a storage, which is the video storage, and that we created. And then next we need to give it a limit, right? So with regards to limit, we need to know one thing about this thing, right? And that if I come in here and say to this thing 1 0 1 2 3 1 2 3, right? And this thing is equivalent to 10 megabytes, right? So but then now I can come in here and maybe say I'll accept 80 megabytes or 90 megabytes times 5, right? And then you guys can do the math there, right? So but then now this is not exactly, I made a mistake here. So we say limit, right? It's an object, and this object will take in file size, and that's where we write that, right? So and that will be our file size that we accept. And then finally we need to filter files. We'll say file filter, because we might not want to support, or we might have a preference in terms of our support. So now we can come in here, say a request, say request, and then response, not response, but then the file and the callback, right? And then that we now check if file dot original name dot match. So here we'll use some regex, right? We now say that dot, then in brackets we say mp4 or mpeg, if I wrote it well, 4, or we can support also mkv. Remember OBS uses, or most of the times not, yeah, it's mkv for OBS if I'm not mistaken. And then we use the $sign and that. Now that should be our regex, right? So now if it doesn't match that, we'll return callback, right, with a new error. And within this new error, what we'll say is video format not supported, right? And then if this if statement is passed, and then we return an error of undefined, and we return a accept file of true, right? And that should be our middleware. Let's test this thing out first on a basic level. So now the next thing is we need to add that secondary middleware. So we import from middleware, we import video middleware, and what we need is we need this video upload. So this will be the next middleware. So if I come here, say video upload, and we say dot single, and then what will be the field name which is coming from our request we'll name it as video, and then we say comma. Let's see if the upload works, and if the upload works, the next step is to save contents to MongoDB, right? The textual content. So I don't know what error was it red. Let's see if my terminal I have something wrong. So yeah, I said comma, it should be semicolon, right? So I can clean this terminal up, npm run dev. So it should be npm run dev, right? So we come here to Postman, we go to our body, and then within the body we don't need account. What we need is the name of the video. So I'll say name, and the name here I will name it, say for example, YT clone tut, right? If my Postman wants to type, so we'll say clean that out, and we'll say YT backend tut, right? And then the next thing is we don't need a video, not video, we don't need password, but then we need a video. So I'll change this to be a file, and then I'll change this field name to be a video as we had specified here there within our middleware. I'll reshow that, and then I can come in here, select the file that I need, say for example this one, it's fine. So I can grab that one as an MP4. So now that should work. Let's send this request, let's see. So if I send this request, and let's see what happens, right? So we get an error, it says video format not supported. So why are we getting this video format not supported? Meanwhile we had added that. So let's come back here, let's see. So we have that in brackets, we have the mp4, we have the mpeg-4, and then we have the mkv4, not mkv. And why is this thing telling me that the video format is not supported? Very interesting. Right, so let's come here to Postman. Let's add maybe an mkv file. Let's see this one, right? And then let's send this, which is an mkv file. So I'm getting the same error, video format not supported. Interesting. And nothing's been said. Okay, let's just remove this for now. Oh yeah, it should be if not, because I was checking if it is, because I was checking if there is an mp4, it would say video format not supported. That was just a mistake my end. So I can come back here, clean up this, run server, right? So if I were to go back here, the conditional was saying if this is the case, then return that, and that was an mp4, and also it is an mkv, so hence I was getting that error. So here we need to check if not one of this, right? So my server is running, my connection to MongoDB, we don't need it right now, so it's fine. So I can now send this data, let's see if it works. So we expect to get authenticated response, right? But then did it upload the file? So as you can see, the file is uploaded, right? And then we have the data that we need, right? So now that is perfect. So here we might even have a problem here. So here do you see we have hash, we have a lot of dashes, and I was hoping this UUID wouldn't give me dashes. So what we'll do is we'll separate them by a hash, those key values, these values. So what do I mean is the file name, instead by separating by that, let's try and separate by a hash, let's see, right? So that when we try and work around to streaming the file, we know that the delimiter is by a hash, something like that. Either way, might not really need it. Let's see if we'll get problems. It's fine, right? But then our upload works. So the next step is, what then do we do next? So if I come back to my route, there are a few things that attached to this thing, right? So next, what then we need is we need to see the file name. When this middleware is done, we need to have access to the file name. If I console.log request dot file name, we should be able to see this, right? So I can say file name, right? So come in here, let's send in the request. If this thing starts, there we go. So now it starts, send that request, and okay, that request is being sent, and then let's wait for the response. There we go, and then we get that file name that is coming from our middleware. However, we need access to this name as well. So what we're going to use is, we'll make our life easy. We'll use body parser. We don't want to overkill by now using what we call formidable. So I can just come in here, npm I body dash parser. I believe it's like this, right? If it gives me some errors, then we'll redo that. So now we use that body parser. Why do we use that? We want to run this as a middleware in order to parse the name, right? And we can run this as the first middleware. So I can come in here, say import body parser, and we want to import the JSON, right? So I can come in here. This will be the first middleware that will run, and then that will parse everything. So if that's the case, if that's working, I can now say console.log and then say video name. I should now have access to the video name, right? So I can come say video name, and that should be the request dot body dot name, right? So now if I come back here, rerun my server, come on, okay, so I won't cancel that out to avoid getting bugs. So when you install, it really won't do any harm, so just let it install. So I can now npm run dev, right? So now with that said, let's see if we do get our file name, our video name. So I send in that request, and then we should get authenticated back as our response. It's not a problem, don't worry about that. We get that, and then we get our video name, which is YT backend tag. So now everything is ready for us: the file name, the video name, and what else do we need? Also the requester token. We know by now that we have access to, so that we can get the owner, and you can see those videos are all getting uploaded, right? So now what I want to do here is within this thing we will write our own controller, because we are adhering to MVC. We don't want to write everything here. We'll go to this video controller, alright, and then we'll remove that. So now within the video controller, I will say export, and then say video, controller, and export class, alright, and then we'll say upload. We'll take in a request, a response. So now if I were to now test waters to make sure that everything still works fine, even when I have this controller right here, I can just copy this, cut this, and then bring this there, alright, and then come back to my routes, and then import, and then from controller, video controller, we want that video controller, and then we create a new instance and say controller is equals to new video controller, right? And then I can now say controller dot upload, and then request a response, right? So now with that said, if I come back here, we should get the same outputs we were getting, right? Even if I come say console.log token, to make sure that we have all data that we need to now save this textual content, we can now say request a token. We should see this working just 100% well. So now if I kill that, rerun, even though I didn't need to, but I just like a clean terminal, I can now come back here and then run this thing. We should get authenticated. Don't worry about it. That is just the default thing that we always got authenticated. So now we can see we have the token has everything we need. The user's ID, we have the video name, we have the file name. Those are the mandatory fields when we look into our model. We need the owner, which is that underscore ID. We need the name, which we have. We need the file path. The rest is now data that will be dynamic, right? I can now come to my controller. We need to import our video model. So now say import from models, video.model, and we need that video model, right? So now I can comment this thing out and then come right at the top, right? So I can now say const new video and say new video model, and then within that we need the owner, right? And then where is the owner coming from? The owner is coming from request.token dot underscore ID. We want to use the underscore ID because we gave that the type is the of schema types, and we have referenced the user. If we come back here, so it will be request the token dot underscore ID, and then we need the name of the file, which is now request dot body dot name, right? And then we need the video path, which is what the request dot file name, right? So this is the mandatory fields we need when creating a new video. So I can now come and say const saved video is equals to await, and then we say new video dot save, and the moment I await, I need to async on this function. I say async, right? And then after that, what then we do is I can now return, and I can even wrap this around the try catch that if anything happens, we handle that error, right, when we're saving this content. So now if nothing happens, I can now return a response.status of 201 for created.json, and what then we do is we now say video uploaded successfully, right? And then the next thing what we do is we now say return response.status of 500, and we'll handle this errors. Remember I told that you will handle errors accordingly, and we'll say video upload failed, right? So now this should be our upload, should work fine. Let's go to our routes. We have to expose this upload. So now let's see everything in action. So let me delete all these other videos. It's really not necessary right now. So to have a clean slate, and then everything should be fine. Right, so let's see. Okay, so that is taking its sweet time. We don't really need to wait for those deletes to happen. So now what we can do is we can come to our okay, the videos are deleted. So now this thing is restarting. Let's wait for the restart, and then let's test this thing out. Right, so it's taking its time. I don't know why, or is it me, but then when NodeMon restarts, at most cases it takes time. So but then it's okay. So we have that restart. Right now we do need that MongoDB connection be resend. So now we say yt backend tat, the file name, and then let's send this request. Let's see if we get everything working, right? So now let's see. Right, so we have the video uploaded successfully. So now if I go to my MongoDB, I refresh that. Let's see if that worked. Right, why is it not refreshing? I refresh. Right, let's see. Just 1 second for that to load. Okay, and I believe also the upload should have done seamlessly. As we can see, the upload is done seamlessly. So we're quite looking good as of now. So still good, going at a good pace. So now the next thing that we'll look into, now we are able to create, right? So we should be able to update, and then let's stream. I'm really keen on the streaming part. I'm even yeah, let's go to the streaming part. Let's go. I feel like the streaming part is more important with regards to this is the heart of this project, right? So we can go to the streaming part and then we can look into update, right? And then delete and all those things, right? So we have videos, right? So we can create our video, right? We have also that video path, right? So now how this would work, also I omitted the thumbnail for a reason, because I would have needed to upload the file, and for that I would use Cloudinary. I wouldn't upload a file. I would also MongoDB depending on if it's not really large files, but then I just like using Cloudinary for uploading files and everything, right? So but then I just omitted that for a reason, because you don't have to. The main important thing is streaming videos. So now, yeah, I'm tempted to go directly to streaming, and then the updating and deletion, that's something that we can look at, right? So now we have our video, right? So now what then do we expect is when a browser wants to stream, they would send through a video with, not a video, they'll send through a link on our route having this video path. And with this video path, we'll be able to send the appropriate video, right? So now what then do I mean by that? First of all, we will need, so this is also another thing, as backend developers, we also need to know how to handle files, not files man, but then we need to be able to work around, what's this, HTML. So let me create this video, let me delete this one. We need to be able to work around HTML. So let's just create a dummy HTML file that will expose so that we can show this streaming thing, right? So we do that, and then within the HTML we don't need anything hectic, so I can just say video stream, and then yeah, we need this h1, and then we'll say, let's say YT stream. There's our YT clone, all right, and then here we'll say YT clone video stream. So I won't go through this HTML thing. I believe this is something, maybe if you don't know, you can, there's tons and tons of videos. So we use this video element, and then within this video element we'll give it controls, and we'll also say autoplay, and we can give it a width, maybe say 500, I don't know, should be fine. And we can give it a source, and then within the source there's a self-closing tag, and then we give it a source URL, which is a HTTP localhost, and then 5000, and then that's where we give what we call API / video, but then now there's a placeholder, and that placeholder is for the video path that you want. So there's the data which the front end will be having, right? So let me cancel that out because I don't want to edit anything. I can come in here, copy this, right? So this data front end will be having this thing dynamically, right? So but then I can now paste that will be the video, right? So now if I save this, we need to be able to render this within our server, right? So this is where it comes down to also being able to work around your HTML, right, with Node. So if my memory is serving me well with regards to all this, what then can we do? Oh, we don't even have to. I can just go live, use this go live thing. I have the specified URL, right? We don't really have to. So now I don't want to have tons of browsers opened, so I can come in here on my Google Chrome, keep everything in one thing, say localhost, and then 5, right? Obviously now it won't have anything. As you can see, there's really nothing. So now what then we do is we kill this, and then what we want to do is we come to controller, right? We need to handle this whole thing of streaming and all that. So now how then do we handle this thing, right? So we need to understand the architecture behind. So a user or a client will send in a request, right? telling us which video they want to stream, and how they're telling us is by this placeholder, right? And then when we get this placeholder, we look this placeholder up within our videos system or video file system. Once we get it, we send partial data, and by partial data is we'll be sending forward a status code of 206. That is for partial data, right? So now when we're sending that partial data back to this client, right? What then is this client, what then are we now saying to this? Is we're saying to this person that there's still more content that is still being sent. Look out for more content, right? So this is what basically we'll be doing. So now I come back here to my controller, which is video controller, and then we'll create a stream function, and this stream function will take in obviously our request and a response, right? And then with that said, what then do we need from this thing as we're starting off, right? So first things first is this video player will send us a range, and this range will determine as to where we are starting. So we'll say request.headers and dot range, right? So this is telling us where we want to start with regards to the video, right? So that we know which part of the video to send. So if that thing is not there, if not the range, what then do we do is we return a response.status of 400, right? And then JSON, and then we tell this client that a range header is required to start stream, right? So now the second thing is we need to get where this video is located, right? And we're going to be using absolute paths. So what we're going to do is we say vconst video path is equals to, and we'll use this bracket so that we can be able to concatenate easily. And then where is this thing located? It's located within this videos folder. So we'll say videos, and then we say /, and then remember we have the placeholder, which is our params. We'll say request dot params dot file name, and that param will name it as file name, right? So now that should be what we need. Now secondly, once we have that video path, we need to know the size of the video, right? So this is where we need this module called file system. So I'll come here and say import, and then we say fs from fs, right? So now we say fs dot, and then we need to get the stat sync, and then we pass in the video path, and then we use the dot size method in order to get the size of this thing, right? Now when we move forward is we now need to, since we now know that if this check is passed, we are now given where to start by this user. So we need to be able to pass the starting point and the ending point of this video, right? So I can come back here, and then we say const start is equal to, and then we say number. So we say number, and we say range dot replace, and then what then we're replacing here is we're replacing all non-digit characters, excuse me, and then say like that /g, right? And then we do that. So now once that is done, what then we need to do is we need to also send in what we call a chunk size. So this is how much we're going to be sending back to the client. So we will send back 1 megabyte each, which is 2 to the power 6. So here we'll be sending 1 megabyte, right? And then the next thing is we need to determine also the end of this video. And how we determine the end of this video, we say math.min, and then from there we calculate the start plus the chunk size, and then we also now get the video size minus 1. And then with that said, here we'll get the minimum of the two so that we don't go above the whole video length, right? So that's why we use the math.min. So now once we have our start, our end, and our chunk size, basically we can change this to whatever that we want, but then this we want to just set 1 megabyte just to be lenient to the users with regards to their bandwidth and everything, right? And then next, what then we do is we need to determine the content length, right? And with regards to the content length, this is basically telling the user how much bytes we are sending, right? So I can now come say content length is equal to the end minus start. If I'm not mistaken, we say end minus start, and then we say +1. And let me put this laptop on charger before it dies off on me. So now, right, so now that I have this thing on charger, there we go. So now that we have our content length, we need to also determine our headers in order to add this content length as part of our headers. So now I can say const headers, and this headers, what then do I give, right? I give this content dash length, and this content dash length, what then do we use? We pass in that content length that we calculated. We then need to give out the accept dash range, and this accept dash range, what then are we giving? We're basically telling it the type of data that we are giving back, which is bytes. And then we give it what we call the content type, content dash type, and this content dash type will say it's a video dash mp4. And then finally we need to give it content range so that our video player can know where or how far this video has been played. So if it's played 80% of it, 90% of it. So now we're given that, and then we say bytes, we give a space, and then we say start, comma, not comma but then dash, and over the whole total video size, right? And then we say video size. So now our browser should be, our client should be able to determine how far this thing has gone, right? So now what then we do is we now say response dot write head, and then within there, what then do we give? We give back our status code, which is 206 for partial data, and we pass out our headers, right? So now the next thing that we do is we now need to create what we call our video stream. So now with our video stream, we'll use fs, and we say fs.create a read stream. So we say create read stream, and then we pass in the video path. And then once we pass in the video path, we give it options. That is our starting and our end, right? And then finally, we now say video stream and dot pipe, and then what then do we pipe? Our response, right? So now that should now create the stream that we need. So if I go back to this, we first check if we have our range. Our browser should give us where we are to start. So that is from 0 bytes going forward. So we know from the start is where we have to start if we get a 0. Secondly, we get our video path, right? And this is from the params, which is the placeholder that we are passing here, right? So this placeholder is file name that we'll show you within our routes when we create that. And then once we do that is we get the video size of the video that we got, right? And then the next thing is we get our starting point based on the range, right? And then next thing is we give back we get our chunk size, the amount of megabytes we're sending back to the client, and we determine our ending position of the video. Finally, we now get what we call, and we get the content length, and the content length is how many bytes we are sending. And then we create our headers. Content length, I explained. Accept range is the type of data we are sending, which is somewhat the same as the content type. And then the content range is basically for our browser to determine how far the video has gone. And then we now say response at the right head with a status code of 206 for partial data. We pass in our headers. We now create a video stream with the fs create stream, read stream. we pass in the video path, we pass in the options for starting, position, and end, and then we pipe that stream through to our response. So now let's craft this URL. We go to our routes, video routes, and then we now say router dot get, and then we say /API /video / and then here we create that placeholder called file name, and then we say request response, and then we say controller dot stream, and then we pass in the request and response. Right, so now with that said, when we come in here, we have this running right now. As you can see, now the video is found. This is the video that was found, because that is the video that we have.
Welcome back, guys, to another video.
That, and you can see now, if I now open my DevTools, we should be able to see the network tabs and everything. So we come here, let's refresh this thing, so you can now see the data is now getting streamed to 206, right? So if I come here,
welcome back, guys, to another video. So today we're gonna be working
that, so you can see that we are sending a request, we are getting this data, we are streaming this data, right? And that is basically how we stream this data. If I now fast forward that, we can see it's also even buffering and everything, and we can even toggle this thing. So let's go to a slow 3G, and then you'd see a lot of delay in latency, and then let's see, and then you can see this thing is trying to stream, so on and so forth, right? So this is how basically the streaming works within Node.js, right? So now obviously this is something that we don't want to run in low what we call low data, so I can bring it back to fast 3G, and then everything should work faster. But then this is how basically we create a video stream, right? So now this should work even if we had another file. Let's test this thing out, right? So now let's upload another file, and let's delete this. Let's see if we don't have any problems. So now I can come here to my downloads. I think I have pre-downloaded videos. Let's test this thing out, this pixel whatever. So I can now upload that. I should get this.
Welcome back, guys, to another video. So today,
let's close that, because that is the one that is streaming and everything. So we get the upload success. The name was still YT backend. That's not a problem. So now we should see that we have 2 videos. I hope so. We have 2 videos, right? So now let's go to our not Postman, but in MongoDB. Let's get the second video file path. So this is the data. So it's like, you see when YouTube gets or displays everything, those data could be within the back scenes, that when you click on that, the client now sends the video path back to us, someone like that. So that depends on how the client is going to do whatever they do, right? But then we backend workers. So we need the second one, which is, so the names are the same, so I'm having a bit of a problem, but then I think this one would be the second one. So if I come back here and then go to my index.html, and then yeah, I believe that is the second one, right? And then we replace this one with that, refresh that, go back here, we should see now our next stream, and we see those bufferings and everything, right? So this is how basically we are streaming this video, right? So now our streaming is working fine. We're streaming just like YouTube, even though YouTube streams dynamically, so that, say for example, you want to change what we call, what is this, man? You want to change, what is this, man? You want to change the to 720px to like the quality, right? And they're using what we call adaptive bitrate streaming. So that is something, if you guys are interested in something like that, comment down below. We can look into what we call adaptive bitrate streaming. But then for now, we can handle this in a much more simpler way, that is this, right? So now the next thing, which is not really the much fun part, because I won't lie, the fun part was streaming, right? So we need to be able to update. So what we can update obviously is the textual content. So we can update the name of the video, and I think that should be it. So let's look at our model. Let's see what are we allowed to update, because we don't even have a thumbnail. If we had a thumbnail, we'd update that. So here we can only update the name of this thing, right, and nothing else. So let's come in here and then let's say update, right? So I can now say, let's even close this front end server. It's fine, there's no need for it to be streaming anymore. So we can now come say update, and then we say request response, right? So the only thing that we're expecting is the name, right? So here I'm still also going to just use body parser just to make our lives easy. We can, instead of overkilling it with formidable, I can now say our name is equals to request dot body dot name, right? And then what then we do is we can now say video, and then now we're not forgetting that const token. Okay, let's do something. So this video has an ID, obviously, right? So we'll get the ID of the video. Interesting, right? So we can get that. Not I token, we don't need the token. We can say ID is equals to request dot body dot ID, right? And I can now say video model dot find one and update, and then I update by underscore ID, which is that underscore ID. And then what then we do is we now create our query. We then say set, and then what are we setting? We are setting the name to the name. And then if we are to throw back this file back, we can now say new is equals to true, and then that will update the document. And then this will take in a callback function, which is error, and then document, right? And then we now validate that if there is an error, what then we do is we now return a response.status of 500. That should be our fault there, and then JSON, and then we say network error, failed to update, what we call failed to update video name, right? So we can even validate that this name is not none. So we can say if name not none, so we can confidently give a status code of 500 there. We can say 400 if the name was not given, and then we say video name is required to update name of video, right? So now if there is no error, right, I can just return a response dot status of 200 dot JSON, and then here we say video name updated successfully, right? So now we have that video being updated successfully. Now the next thing that we want to do is, yeah, let's see if that update works. So I'll come back here, and then I'll grab the ID. So let's say we want to update this one and give it another name. So I come here to my postman, say API video, change this to patch, and then just use put, come on, you can use that put, and then that should be video, and then the name, we'll change this, since it's like beauty related, as you can see, there's makeup and everything, so I can just say something similar, make up, so make up tut, right? And then what else we need to do is we need to the ID of this thing. I'll come in here and say ID And then within that ID, what then do we give here? I'll come in here and say that, and I believe that's what I needed, right? Request.id, right? That. So now we paste in that. Let's see if that works. Oh yeah, we need to expose the URL, this controller. So we come say here, router dot, I think put does exist, and then we say /API/video, and then we say request response, and then let me see something. I think also patch, because patch is not updating everything. I think patch should be the right one, because put, as far as I'm concerned, is when you replace everything. Patch is when you update a particular field, if that makes sense. So I'll just keep it as patch, and then we'll say update, and then we pass in the request and the response. So now let's see if that works, and then update, excuse me, we update this to patch. So patch, if I'm not mistaken, patch is just updating a particular field, and then put is basically replacing a lot. I don't know, I might be wrong. So it says cannot read type error name of none, of undefined. Is this thing crazy? So I come to my video controller. Oh yeah, it's not crazy, eh? We didn't pass the middleware JSON, so it's not crazy. So we have to pass in that middleware so that it passes our request object, right? So I can clean up the terminal, so it's not crazy. So what I mean is, remember, in order for us to be able to access request.body, we need from body parser this JSON, so we can add that there, right? So now my server is up and running. I can now run this, right? Let's see. So it says video name is required to update. This thing is crazy now. So let's come in here. Make sure this thing, I come in here, grab that name directly, and then that should work. So let's see. I send in that request. Video name is required to update name on video. This thing is crazy, guys, no lie. What is happening here? Okay, so what I do is take everything on a basic level, because there's some silly error we shouldn't be getting, no lie. So I'll just console log the name and the underscore ID for now. So now we then come in here. My server's up. We don't need any Postman, we don't need any Mongo connection for now. So I'll just run that, and we don't expect any response, right? So let's see what then we get from our terminal. I am sending the request, right? Yep, the request is getting sent, but then I'm not having any output here. Interesting. It's very interesting. I don't want to use formidable, because formidable will be an overkill for this. It's really not necessary, in my understanding. Why are we getting undefined? Why are we getting these things as undefined, guys? It really doesn't make any sense, because we have this JSON. Patch. Okay, cancel this request. Cancel this. Come on, why is my postman delaying today? My postman is really not user friendly yet. So we come in here, delete that, delete that, delete that, right? So I'll add in those keys again. I'll say name, and the value would be make up tut, and then we need another textual content, which is ID, and let's go grab this textual content. This is coming from this. I'll Control C that, and then we can paste that there. Right. So now let's run this. Let's see. So I send that a request, and then let's see what now my server responds. Go to my terminal, and then hopefully now my server, but then if it doesn't work now, we'll overkill it by using formidable. I don't want to do it, but then if it's forcing my hand, why not? Right. So why am I getting any console log? I don't know, for some odd reason my postman, I feel like it's my postman delaying things. As you can see, my request is not really getting forwarded. As you can see, I'm getting that undefined again. Right, so I'm not gonna play around with this. So what I'll do is we come back here. Right, so we'll overkill it as much as I never wanted to. I'll import from formidable. I'll import that incoming, and then what I need to also make sure is if I'm going to use formidable, I don't want that JSON parser there. And then we come back here, we'll say const form is equals to new incoming form. We'll say form.parse our request, which can arise with some errors, fields and files. Right, so now if we get any errors, I will return a response.status of 500.json message, say network error, failed to update video name, because that is our error. Right, so now what then we do next is I can now come in here, say const name underscore id equals to fields. Right, we're destructuring those. So I can comment this one up, actually kill that, and then bring this one here, and then let's see, we expect to see now our textual content. Right now, let's clean this thing up. My terminal doesn't want me to control C this thing, guys. I don't know what is happening with my computer today. I'm literally trying to kill the server. I'm literally trying to kill the server. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. That is me right now trying to kill the server. If name blah 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 blah. I still need a squeeze, so. But then why is my server, why doesn't it want me to control C? Okay, let's just do this. Let's just open git bash. Since this thing doesn't want to do me justice, I'll just close it completely. Since this terminal doesn't want. Right, start on a fresh terminal, desktop. Right, junior YT backend clone. Right, so I should have that. So I can npm run dev. Right, and then now I go to my postman. My server should be running, and then I send that request forward. Now let's see if we get, so we get makeup tat, but then we're not getting ID up. Oh yeah, because I said underscore ID and it is ID, not underscore ID. And I need to print that out, because remember within our thingy here we said ID, not underscore ID, right? Hence we're not getting that, but the makeup tab we're getting. And then let's send this request one more time. I don't know why body parser was not working, to be honest with you. So if I come here, we can see now the ID and the makeup tab is working. So now we can just literally bring this back, but then right inside our formidable thing, right, clean that up, and then now we check if not name, same thing, we upload the video based on that, we should now get a working thing. Right, so now my server is restarting, and there we go. Let's wait for a MongoDB connection. We should get a connection in a few. Right, there we go. Let's send that a request. Right, so now that the request is getting sent. So now, or is it not? I don't know what's happening with my postman today, literally. But now this thing is getting sent. Okay, we're getting an error. So it says, right, underscore ID is not defined, because here we're trying to check here underscore ID. I have to say ID. Sorry for that, guys. My bad there. So I can rerun the server, because remember the ID that we're getting is ID, not underscore ID. So here we also have to correct that. So now my server is running, and then I can run this. And Postman, send that request. Right, and there we go. Video name updated successfully. Now let's go to our database. We should see this then change to makeup tutorial. So if I refresh that, and that should work. Hopefully that should have worked. If it didn't, it's our job as developers to debug this thing. Don't be afraid of bugs. So we can see that that worked. Makeup tut. Now finally we need to be able to delete. So we need to be able to delete from here and delete, excuse me, and delete where the video within our file system. So that means that we need to get the following ID, video ID, and the video path. So now how then do we do that? So we now need to delete. So let's create the last method for our video. So we can now say const delete, not const, but then just delete, and then a response. So what then we get is the video underscore ID, which will be request dot params. Because I don't have to give it on the body, do I? I don't. I really don't. So I'll just say video params dot video underscore ID, and then semicolon, and then say const video underscore path, which is request dot params dot video underscore path. Right. So now with that said, how then do we delete? So first thing, we can delete right from the file first, file system, and then once that is successful, we delete on the database. Right. So now the file, we must remember, we'll use the same way that we got here. So this is the path that we use. Right, so same structure. So but then now we'll change this to video underscore path. And then what then we do is we still need the fs module, right? It's imported, should be. So now say fs. Right, so first things first, we can add a handle and check if this file does exist. So we can now say if fs.exist sync, and then we say video path. Right, what then do we want to do? We want to say fs.unlink. So we use the unlink to delete, and then we pass in the path that we want to unlink, so which is the video underscore path. No, which is the video path, I mean, because that is the one that we have now attached. So to get from the videos, this was just the file name directly, and there's the path. If that makes sense. Right, so video path, and this will return back to us a callback, which will have an error if there is an error that arises. Right, so if there is an error, what they do is say return response dot status of 500, and then say JSON, and then we say that network error. Remember, all these errors will handle them accordingly. Network error, and say failed to delete video. Right, and then if there isn't any error, we then return a response.status of 200.json, and then send a message saying video delete. Oh yeah, before we do this, right, we need to now delete from MongoDB. Right, so before we even do this, I'm rushing things. We now need to say video model dot find one and delete, and we want to find one by the underscore ID, which is the video underscore ID, and we don't even have to add a lot. We can just return that callback, and then say if we have an error, then return a response.status of 500 .json, and then send a message which I'll just copy from the top and then paste that there. But then if there's no error, I bring this last piece. So now this should be how we handle the deletion. Hopefully this works. If it doesn't work, remember it's our job to debug. Never be afraid of bugs, never in your life. So now we come to this route whereby we now say router.delete, and then we need to also add placeholders, right? So say video, and the first placeholder that we have is video underscore ID, and then the next one is video underscore path, right? So those are the placeholders that we used here: video underscore ID, video underscore path. So that is what we define also here as our placeholders. And we say request, response, and we say controller dot delete, and we say request response, right? So now let's try this one out. So now let's delete this makeup tutorial. So we need the video underscore path. So I'll now come in here, say video, and then we add the video underscore ID. I believe it's the starting one, right? We start with the underscore ID, perfect, and then the path, right? So I now bring in that path, and then /path, and then change this method to delete, and then I hope it works. If it doesn't work, you know the job, guys, you know the drill. So let's delete this. Let's see if we don't get any errors within our console. I hope we don't, eh? And then it says video deleted, so it says it deleted successfully. So it means that we should be having two videos here. As you can see, we only have two videos. No, we only have one video. I mean, we had two videos initially, now we have one video. So we know that it worked. Let's go to our browser where we have our database, refresh this, and then we shouldn't see this makeup tut document. And then now we will know that we have successfully updated, deleted, streamed, and created a video. And then from there we check with regards to interaction, likes, dislikes, and all those things. As you can see now, we don't have that video within this thing, right? So I hope you guys learned a lot how to stream videos, how to upload, how to use your file system. Very interesting stuff. So I hope you guys learned a lot. If you're still interested on learning backend development or are interested in learning backend development, consider subscribing, because we are making bangers all day, every day. So subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and I'll see you next time. And next time we'll be looking into likes, dislikes, and video performances. So this is the things that we'll be looking at. So it's very interesting, and goodbye, guys.